Hi, I'm George Norrie, and welcome to our Coast to Coast AM YouTube channel. Have fun, tell your friends, and share us with everyone. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Coast to Coast AM's mobile app. And always remember to log on to our website at coasttocoastam.com for daily articles, the best paranormal information, and all you need to know about your favorite guests. And now you can become a Coast Insider directly through the Coast mobile app. We welcome our international listeners and even offer a free 2-week trial. So don't delay. Become an insider today.
Broadcasting from the confines of an abandoned radio station in the secluded apartment building of High Strangeness. On the foothills of the Colorado Rockies, it's time for full disclosure of the topics they told us were off limits. No way. Hey there, I'm Connie Willis. This is Coast to Coast AM. Tonight, the new Alien Council updates. Yep, we've got it. The updates tonight. I'm looking forward to this one for sure. So go ahead, time now to turn off those lights. Join me for another interesting evening of conversation, much needed education, and the chance that we might get a little closer to the truth of what lurks amongst us and what is beyond. I'm Connie Willis, and this is Coast to Coast AM. Okay, now this is interesting. Our guest for tonight, Vincent Genna. He's been on here before. We've had him here on Coast to Coast several times. In fact, he was not on too long ago with George Norrie, and I didn't realize it. So I guess it's okay because he's on tonight. So that's cool. I appreciate that because he's got an update on something that he was talking to with George Norrie. So I got the update, got you covered. So you'll know what's going on with what happened. First of all, I had talked to Vincent years back on here on Coast to Coast on a New Year's Eve, and he will remember it too. You know, I kept thinking, I know you. And I thought, well, maybe because he's gone to a live events here with Coast to Coast as well. And I'm thinking maybe that's what it is. But then we realized, oh, no. We did a New Year's Eve thing together at one point. So if you don't know Vincent, well, you know, first of all, you got to check out his hair. You got to go check out his picture. He's got the coolest hair in the world. So you will start singing or humming the Hawaii Five-0 tune. Da, 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 da. Every time he comes into a room, that sound happens. Anyway, he's a great guy. He's a psychic therapist, spiritual teacher, extraterrestrial communicator. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, the Alien Council and what the update is. And he's also got this great book, by the way. That's what, I know he's been doing a lot of talk about that before. I just don't want to brush over that just because he's got the alien thing going on. But Vince, welcome back once again. You're a weekly guest here on Coast to Coast, but thank you for coming back for me. It's been so
much. Connie,
we haven't talked in a while.
I feel more like a family member there at this point. Thank you so much for having me back. I appreciate it. It's wonderful.
Oh, I love it. I love that accent. Wait a minute. Where are you from? Are you is it Jersey?
Oh, you see, now some people think that. No, originally, maybe if I talk a little bit more like this, and I talk
not bad.
You know, it's from the New York region. You know, that's what I'm talking about with a name like Vinny Bombat Genna. Okay?
Oh, got it.
So from New York, Long Island.
Love it.
Yes, I did live in Jersey. We lived in Jersey for about 14 years, and now.
Well, there you go.
I'm a native Southerner, but I'm a native Southerner now. I live down in the Raleigh area, down in North Carolina.
Ooh.
So I've been a Southerner all my life. Southern New York, Southern Italy, and now Southern North Carolina.
Ooh. Well, I got to tell you, I lived in Philly. I loved it. And so, New Jersey's boom, right on the other side. But I loved it up there. I liked it a lot.
Did you? Oh, yeah. My gosh. Well, after all the congestion and everything like that, and we just decided to come down. It was a calling that brought us down here. And since we've been here, our kids, they found their spouses here, and just wonderful, wonderful things have happened. But people have to stop coming here now, okay? We're closing the doors. It's starting to turn out like an L.A., and we're getting because all these great businesses are coming in, or maybe I'm not going to advertise all these great businesses because more people will come. Listeners, wherever you are, stay there. It's beautiful. You just deserve where you are.
So you're here you are, a psychic therapist. You're the spiritual teacher. You're
Right.
author. You got all these things going. You're the guy in Greece, and also the ET communicator. How did I know you got an update for us, but you got to fill me in on the other stuff, because how did that even begin for you?
Well, here is the thing, Connie, and here's what I wind up teaching people, because I do teach classes myself on opening this ability. When you do your work, and I'm not just talking about perfecting your skills, okay? I know a lot of people that they study, psychic ability, mediumship ability. I myself even went over to England at Arthur Findlay College of Psychic Sciences, and I did some studying there to do the best I can to perfect my skills. But what really opens your channel to hearing and connecting to your soul, which then connects you to everything else universally, is doing your inner work. And what I'm talking about, which is basically what's written in my book, clear the channels. Clear the stuff out of you, the negative stuff, the negative beliefs, the negative self-feelings you have. And the more you do that, and I've done that for the past 44 years since I've started this process, working on myself, working on those torments that I had. Some people have more, some people have less from their youth. And it creates scars, it creates belief systems that are in there, that are hiding, that are being shielded from you. And so I've done everything I could to work on those. Well, as I worked on those, as well as my skills, my abilities just kept opening and opening. I started as a psychic only, and then the mediumship part came in, and then I was working on that and working on perfecting that and keep working on my personal life. And then all of a sudden my ability to talk and communicate with animals began to happen. And so I was working on that part as well, constantly on a daily basis, improving my abilities and improving my life. And then all of a sudden, one day, now it's going on several years ago, I'm just sitting in my office, and all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, I hear, "We want to talk with you." So, of course, like any good psychic does, I looked at my plants and I said, is that you talking to me now? Am I talking to plants now? They're talking to me. My ficus tree is telling me it needs water. What? Why does you want to talk to me? Because I didn't know what it was. I knew it wasn't a spirit. I just heard this voice.
How did you know?
Voice saying.
How did you know it wasn't a spirit? Hold on.
Okay, how did I? Because I know now, after the years that I have been working with spirits, I will know when a spirit is trying to make contact with me. I see them, I feel them. It's a different energy. It's a different energy altogether. Okay. So this was more of a telepathic communication. So there was nobody there but a voice. Now, sometimes spirits can talk to me, but only when I'm asking, in that way. They'll talk to me without absolutely appearing, whether it be my parents who are on the other side of the deceased loved ones, my guides, my angels, whatever. But this voice was definitely different. It was very authoritative. It was very gentle. And it was just very clear. And it was also uncommon to me. So that is the difference. When you work enough with spirit in the spirit realm, because people ask me all the time, how do you know you're not talking with something evil? Well, first of all, my greatest belief is there's nothing evil on the other side that is going to talk to you. If you want anything evil, they're over here in the living, okay? So that's the whole thing, all right? And so I know, plus I have developed enough of a protective system. Like I heard you earlier talking to I would love to go to some of the haunted places you go to. They used to bring me to Chicago to heal some of their haunted places. The moment I walk into a place, because of my protective system, those spirits usually run from my light rather than come and try to scare me or anything like that. I'm never frightened.
Vince, but that's no good. Then we can't go and investigate if you go clear them out. There was another guy.
I called them back. I called them back because I eventually tried to help them move on. Some spirits don't want to move on. Some ghosts don't want to move on. So I can't help them. But the point is that I am naturally protected in that way, and I feel really good. So when I hear a voice, I know that it's going to be some positive voice, and I give it attention. And that's what I did. I sat and I said, okay, who is this talking with me now? And it's so funny because thank God these things happen to me by myself first.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yes, because then I have to lightly bring it to my wife and then my family, my children, because they know everything that I do. And my wife, I'll go, so I'm hearing this, and this guy introduces himself. It sounded like a male voice, which is interesting. And he said to me that I am part of an intergalactic council of spirited beings. So right away I knew that these were once physically incarnated beings on their universes, now in spirit form. Just like we become in spirit form, they do the same thing. And we all really gather together and then the same dimensions once we leave our own personal universe, okay? Just so that you know that. We all came from the same place. We were all created at the same time. We just decided to go to different universes to incarnate and experience ourselves there. That's the information that they gave me. And I believed that anyway from the beginning. So he introduces himself like that. So here I am. I'm going, okay, this is new. All right. Can I ask you, I've been doing this for a while. Why are you communicating with me at this point? Now, originally, when I first started out, in the first couple of years of my awakening and having this psychic ability, I had a guide come to me who said, and it was a female, and said that she was an alien in spirit, but she was one of my guides there for my health. And she was actually, at that time, I was a smoker. And she was actually telling me that if I eventually do not quit smoking, that I was going to develop cancer in one of my lungs. It was actually a motivation from her that helped me to quit smoking, I guess, years later, but I did. But that was the first time I ever had a kind of communication with aliens. So I, felt that they existed to start with, but now they're communicating with me for a different reason. And when I asked, he said, because now is the time that we are going to become more known. Now, this was just before, way before, actually a few years before, all of this released by the government, right? So people were making all these claims of sightings, but the government hasn't released anything yet. So they're telling me that they're going to become more known, it's going to be released, and that they needed me because of my position and the direction I was going in with my notoriety and being on wonderful shows like yours right now, that I would be able to instruct people as to why they're coming down and clear up all of the misunderstandings and the myths and the fallacies about aliens to start with, so that we, start understanding that they're only here to help. So that's how it started. And
Vince,
so I come out of this is what they tell me.
You're like the leader. You're the leader. Everybody wants to be the leader. Come on. They picked you. It's pretty good.
Well, that was, I felt, and I felt very secure in them being able to tell me that, because my intentions doing this work, Connie, from the beginning were always pure. Mm-hmm. I don't want to, as a matter of fact, I even made an arrangement with God, the universe, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it. And I said, listen, if I start going off the path at all and I start using words to hurt people, then let me lose my voice. I don't want to ever hurt anybody. This information is too important and people's lives are too important, and I only want to help. So when I heard this from them, I even told them, listen, I will do the best I can to help you. If you feel at all that I am going in the wrong direction, then don't communicate or tell me that I am something, because I want to keep this pure. And that they said, well, that is the reason why we've come to you to start with. We know that your intention is good because we see that. And so I felt honored, kind of. I was like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe they picked me. So meanwhile, now I have to go tell my wife, okay? And I'm like, honey, sit down. I just want to share another experience that just happened to me. And she says, oh, God, what? I mean, she was hysterical when I told her that I communicated with a donkey in order to help heal it because it told me that it had acid reflux, and we put it on a gluten-free diet in order to help it, that the vet couldn't even figure out what was wrong. All right, this was with a donkey. And then anybody who's watched Michael Sandler's podcast, I was on his podcast, and I did a reading for his rooster. His rooster. Okay, that's the smallest brain I have ever gotten into so far. So I'm not going into rats or mice with any of that. Okay, so that's where I draw the line. No, and reptiles. I won't speak to reptiles. So meanwhile, I come out and I tell my wife, I just had communication with ET, and it wasn't through a phone. So and she's like, what? I said, honey, you're not going to believe this. I'm sitting in the office, and I've got a council, told me an intergalactic council that is communicating with me now, and they want me to bring the truth to people. And she's like, are you kidding? And the first thing, my wife believes in me and everything that I do, so she didn't doubt me at all. Her major concern is, how are you going to now introduce this to the public without them thinking that now you've gone off the deep end or anything? And it was the next week, Connie. I am in Asheville with George Norrie doing his event. And at that event, we're out at dinner the day before, okay? And I wind up being introduced to Christopher Bledsoe Sr., who is now considered the most noted and documented person in the United States who has had direct contact with aliens and UFOs.
The aliens came down, or they wanted to talk to you because of the hair. They want you to speak for them because of the hair. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I think they were getting a great reception because of the hair. It kind of like acts as an antenna now. You know what I mean? My little Martian had two little antennas that came up in order for him to do his thing. I got my hair.
That's right. Now, I want to say something, Vince, as well. You and I joke because we have a good time. We keep it light, but we're extremely serious when it comes to this stuff. And sometimes when you do laugh, you'll get some email going, hey, well, how can you laugh at something so serious? It's just because you got to keep it light sometimes because it's so freaking serious and real. And, it's good to keep that sense of humor.
That's what comedy is anyway. I was never a stand-up comedian, but I always watched it, and they take the seriousness of life to make it into humor. Melodrama, the ancient Greeks started it that way. That was what melodrama was all about. It took the tragedies of the life that they were going through, and they turned them into comedy so that people can be relaxed and released and enjoy them. And the funny thing is, soap operas were meant to do the same thing, but they did it in seriousness. So people watched the melodramas back in the old days to lighten up about the tragedies that they were going through and actually laugh at them. People watch soap operas to lighten up because they think somebody else has more problems than them.
That's true. That's right.
But, yes, and besides the message that we have to share with them, Connie, the work that they need to do, it's the old adage from, I'm going to be corny, with Mary Poppins, a teaspoon of sugar helps the medicine go down. Well, I give them a gallon of honey because I've got a really heavy message to deliver. And so if I can make them laugh, they open their hearts, they warm up to me, and then I can gently get in there and shake them by the shoulders, because that's what my messages do, is shake them by the shoulders. Then I make them laugh about it again and say thank you. So
I like it. So you told your wife, I think that's where we were at the end.
That's where we left off.
Yeah. And wait a minute. Then, you met up with George Norrie out at the event.
That's right. I met up with George Norrie, and I met this gentleman and his family, Christopher Bledsoe Sr., and they were an incredible family, and it really is too long of a story to go into, but there were synchronicities going on all night long, and even at the end when everybody left, my wife and I are sitting down having ice cream in an ice cream parlor there. It was the only thing open, and all of a sudden they come walking in, the whole family, and they're like, oh, my God, we were just talking about you and your wife, and now here you are. So we just had the greatest conversation. We linked up. We became friends. And here was the thing. Here is this gentleman who is telling me his story of how NASA, the CIA, the FBI, the Vatican are all involved in his life, and the experiences he went through and constantly goes through meeting these aliens. And I turn around and I tell him, well, you're not going to believe this. Just recently, within just last week, I started getting a communication from an intergalactic force. Then he starts getting messages saying, yes, we meet each other because we're supposed to help each other. And now that begins to validate what I'm experiencing. And shortly after that, I was asked out of the clear blue. Now, here I am, a psychic therapist, so anytime somebody invites me to a conference, I think it's going to be because of my mediumship or my psychicness. I'm going to talk about stuff like that. And no, this one was, do you know anything about UFOs and aliens? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Did you just ask me that? Are you serious? This is what just happened to me. And I explained, and they said, well, something just told me to ask you about that. So I was at part of a conference over here in the Raleigh-Durham area talking about that. And then there were experts who were validating what I said. Then, of course, George has me on Beyond Belief, and he brings up a whole bunch of videos on his show to validate everything that I was saying that the aliens were telling me. Now, understand something, and I want you to listen to this to understand this. The only interest I ever had in aliens, besides watching E.T. and Close Encounters and all of those movies from back then and by Ron Howard and Steven Spielberg that I loved, I read one book, Communion, which was talking about all these people that were abducted and a psychologist who formed a group for them, a support group. That's all I knew. I never pursued that because there's only so much you can pursue as a psychic therapist. I was so busy with my work that I can't expand all of my field. So there's very little. I never even heard of MUFON prior to this. I never heard of the ufologist or any of that prior to even meeting Christopher Bledsoe. And so all of a sudden this is expanding in my life because of the information that they're giving me. So I didn't do any research even prior to the conference. I actually just, the name of my talk was Close Encounters of the Psychic Kind.
Ooh, I like that.
Right, because that's what it was. It was a psychic telepathic communication with me. So I started to explain what they were telling me. Everybody loved it. They wanted me to do it again. And then all these experts kept coming up to me and saying, if you read this book, they confirmed everything that you were talking about is what they had seen and heard before. And I was like, really? You mean I'm not just giving out BS? And they're like, no, you were really. And they believed that I was, yes, this is legitimate because he is coming out with real information, including how they get around here in space and the planets and how that they don't use any kind of fuel whatsoever. They use magnets in the gravity. And I was like, I never heard that before. You know, you watch it on TV. I have no idea. Just on TV, they don't tell you how they created that or what the propulsion is supposed to be in a spaceship. So they're giving me all of this information. So I had to, Connie, believe it. I had to start believing it, and I started talking about it, and I do till today. And I will be doing it more. So this is why it's been so incredible for me.
So tell me, I'm dying. I got to hear more. What did they say? I'm dying.
Well, first of all, okay. Well, all right. So this is the crazy stuff. Prior to communicating with these aliens, I actually worked with Greg Braden. Okay. He's an anthropologist and geologist. I'm sorry. I keep saying anthropologist. He studied anthropology, but he's actually a doctor in geology. If anybody remembers any of the stories from the Old Testament, the story of the creation and Adam and Eve, it comes to Cain and Abel, that story, right? When Cain killed Abel, there was one thing that God said to Cain that everybody overlooks, and nobody ever studies what he meant by that. God cast Cain out of the Garden of Eden for killing Abel. And he says to Cain, you will no longer be able to procreate with your kind you will only be able to procreate with those of the earth. What the heck did he mean by that? Nobody was asking what beings of the earth. What, with the goats, the sheep? What? That's where he was going to have babies with? No. That was humans understanding after, maybe thousands of years after, they're knowing that there was a different human form prior to even their human form. And so it was the aliens who told me that humans on the planet today are all hybrids. This planet is the most archaic out of all the civilizations in the universe today.
We're the most primitive of all?
Oh, my God.
Oh, jeez.
Connie, look at everybody. You're telling me we're advanced? I'm sorry. We are going
But they told you we were the most primitive. They said you guys are the bottom of the bottom.
We are the bottom of the barrel, which is why they've been helping us since the beginning of this existence. And Greg Braden in his book has shown historically that this earth has already been through 5 civilizations. And remember the Mayan calendar nonsense that happened back in 2012? That was supposed to be the Mayan calendar ended December 21st, 2012, and that everybody was thinking the world was going to come to an end. No, the Mayan calendar only counted out one civilization. So every 5,125 years, there has been a new civilization. So since then, so we have been attempting to get it right for the past 5 times, plus now it's more now. So we're on our 6th journey of 5,125 years of trying to get it right here. And I actually have been told by my guide that the reason why people are acting on the earth the way they're acting is because we're all imploding from having incarnated here too many times. We're coming down to the earth too much. We enjoy pizza too much, so we keep coming back to have more. But the problem is, think about this. We're unlimited, powerful beings. We are part of this great force. Now, what happens when you take a force and you compact it and limit it in order for it to live in a limited existence? It's like packing in an atom bomb, right? An atom. You keep compacting it. What did it do? It exploded. And that's what they said we're doing. We're kind of becoming, there's anarchy all over, spiritual anarchy, because we are limiting our power way too much. And so it's wanting to get out, and it's coming out in all different forms, and it's coming out on top of each other. It's coming out in illnesses and all these ridiculous diseases we're dying from. It's coming out by the way we're affecting the earth. So we're not supposed to be here, and that is the reason why the aliens keep coming back, is because they want to help us.
So ETs, the ones you're talking to, is it just one group, and what do they look like?
It's one group, and it's a variety. Well, that's the thing. They basically, they're talking to me. They haven't shown me. And what people need to understand when it comes to a medium, okay, spirits do not have bodies anymore. They're just energies. But everybody seemed to think, the concept that we always had of God, the way religion taught, that God was outside of us, and then the pictures of angels with the wings. And we always see these spiritual beings that are outside of us, and they look just like people as if they had bodies. That is not how we exist once we leave the human form. We're just an energy form. Okay?
Within, yeah.
And so what happens is everybody thinks that you're going to be seeing them. No, in order for them to have me see what they look like, they need to manipulate in my brain, in my mind, information in order to form an image in my brain. Just like when you look at something, okay, you are really not seeing it. You are seeing light reflecting. It's not until it gets to the back of your eye, to the part of your brain, that then translates that light into a vision. That's how our eyes work. We think we're seeing the object, but in actuality, we're only seeing the colors, the light, and it's just streaming into the eye. The brain puts it together so that we can see the object. Okay. So as long as that can happen, then a spirit is capable of doing the same thing, manipulating the energy that's going into your head to form a vision. All right. So with all that being said, no, they have told me about the drawings and the pictures that people have of aliens to let me know that there are different species, okay, and that each one of those species has evolved to a different way, many of them looking the same, except maybe a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit taller, okay? The ones that we see that have the large heads, skinny bodies, small mouth, big eyes, small nostrils have actually evolved the most, okay? Because they don't even eat food the way we eat, which is the reason why they have small mouths. And they're skinny. They have no body fat on them whatsoever because they only take in nutrition that is good for them. They've evolved so much that even their taste buds have evolved. But with them, they're so evolved, they don't even need to chew their food. They drink their foods. They drink mostly pureed foods, which is why they don't have big mouths. There's nothing to stick in there to eat. Not only that, but environmentally, they breathe enough and process enough oxygen that they don't need giant oral cavities. And so it's evolvement. So these aliens evolved. Now, the least evolved, but they're still more than us, are actually the Palladians. The Palladians all look like Swedish people, right? They're tall, they're blonde hair. I'm watching Lord of the Rings right now, the new episode, and they look like the elves. Long blonde hair, beautiful, blue eyes, light fair skin, okay, and they're always beautiful. People who have sightings of them, when they usually see them, describe them the same way, in white robes, long blonde hair, beautiful eyes, that kind of thing. Well, they are actually higher than us in evolution, but not as high yet as the other aliens, okay, as our other brothers and sisters who evolved quicker. And evolution comes from the choices you make. They all made different choices. We're still so tied up in the physical world and physicality. That's kind of why our choices have been so slow, and that's the reason what they're telling me. So they come here to help. But here is the update that we've been asking for. People are asking me. This is recently what they were telling me and why they're coming down so much now and why it's so important for people to start accepting them and stop being afraid of them, because we're damaging ourselves so much on the earth. They're concerned as to the direction we're going in and that the earth is going in at this point. We've got a spiritual anarchy going on for sure. People are forgetting so much of who they are, and they're lashing out, and they're hurt. And the more they're hurt, the more negativity that's out there, and the more that keeps coming out. Now, yes, do we have the chance of turning this around? Absolutely, but that's the reason why they're coming down. They don't care anymore if we see them, okay? They just, that's why they're put, and I'm not the only one, I'm sure. I know I have not gathered with my fellow telepathic alien communicators, but the majority of the messages, and even Christopher Bledsoe himself has been receiving the understanding that they're here to help, they're here to help, they're here to help. And, of course, as humans, how do we take them, right? They're different. So right away we imagine that they're going to be threatening. Why? Because of all the Hollywood movies that have come out about aliens. There's only been a few movies, I think a handful, I can't even name them. Starman was one of them. I remember, and I forgot who it was. The actor's name is on the tip of my tongue.
I love that one. That was a good one.
You know why you love that one? Because it was about a benevolent alien who came down here to try to help.
You were, I want you to get right back into the story. Why are some of the ET, or maybe all of them, I think you said, why are they
They are
friendly.
benevolent.
Okay.
They are benevolent. They are benevolent. In order for them to escape their universe, they must know the concept of dematerialization. Okay? Now, dematerialization is not going to come to us through intellect. It's going to come to us through intuition, which is what quantum physics understands, because they today understand dematerialization. They have to be spiritually minded because they would have to be so in tune to their intuition to be able to develop the technology to be able to do that. That's the reason. It is not an intellectual concept. It is an intuitive concept. And that intuition can only be connected to if you are more pure and you've eliminated a lot of the negativity, anger, hatred, and all of that nonsense. So that's why they're benevolent. The latest of the update is they're going to be coming in droves now because they need to be teaching us how to stop destroying ourselves. It's actually the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. I use the Bible a lot, not because it's history, because it's metaphysical and metaphoric stories for us to learn about our capacities. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah is the capacity we have to destroy ourselves. It wasn't God destroying us. It was us using the force to destroy ourselves because of the direction we were going in. And so they're trying to help us and warm us. They're like our angels. That's exactly what happened back in the story, right? The angels went to Lot and said, go wake up some spiritual people, 11 of them, and you'll stop the destruction of the earth. Well, that's exactly what's happening, because in Christopher Bledsoe, he sees them in spirit form. So they're coming to him in orbs and light form. He calls them the light beings, his angels. And they're like angels in spirit form. It's the same type of spirits that I speak to on the other side, whether it be the angels, whether it be my mom and dad. They're in spirit form coming down as well as in physical form. So those people who are having sightings of orbs coming to them, and those people who have sightings of actual ships and beings, they're coming to help, and that's why they're here.
Wow. Now they're telling you this stuff. They're telling you all the facts.
They are feeding it to me. I've been so involved in the helping aspect that a lot of people are asking me, like, well, how many universes are there? Well, how many, what do they look like? What is all of this? So I get some information of that, but it's not the most vital thing, like how they travel. They use the magnetic field. They actually cannot go to a planet that does not have gravity. Okay, they can't do that because they use the gravity of the planet in order to travel. It's a pull and push concept. It's just like a magnet. You know how you put the South Pole to the South Pole, it pushes it away, the North Pole to the North Pole, it pushes it away, but the opposites attract? Well, they actually have the capacity in their ship to switch their magnet field back and forth from north to south to north to south. So when they want to come closer to the planet, they use the opposite to pull them down. If they want to propulse away from the planet, they switch gears and they get pushed away. And that's how they travel. So that's some of the information that they have given me. But the rest I haven't asked them. I do believe, no, I can't say this. There's 7 of that they told me beings, that one being from each universe is represented in that council, is what they've told me. Those are 7 beings that are communicating with me from universe. Now, I really haven't had the time to clarify with them, are there only 7 universes? There may be more. But there are reasons why numbers in numerology are strong, and this is the reason why. It's because of our existences, the number of universes, and that's why sacred geometry is so powerful.
Okay, so let's say, they come, they help us with the planet and all that kind of stuff. Now, let's say the planet is perfected. What's it going to look like when it's perfected? Everything is fine and cleaned up the way it should be, where we're not messing it up, because we're seeing it messed up, is what you're saying. So what would it look like if we're not messing it up? And then what from there?
Okay.
Would we live longer or?
Oh, my God, that is a great question. Well, actually, eventually we'll overcome the earth and we won't be incarnating here anymore. Our whole purpose here is to discover ourselves and remember who we are as divine, magnificent beings. Once we do that, Connie, we don't need to come back to this physical world. We can live in the unlimited environment that we were created in and evolve from there. and go even further, okay? But up until that point, we'll only take this so far. But what you see in some of the movies, got to remember something. Anything that we think we have the imagination to create, we're not creating, we're recreating it. We've already created it. It's our job to just bring it into this dimension that we're living in. The past, the present, and the future. And science, there was just an article not too long ago in New York Times about how science is showing that time is not a linear measurement. It's actually a place. And the past and the present and the future lie on top of each other, and they're places and happening at the same time. So the reason why we're capable of creating these supposedly unbelievable imaginary stories, like in Hollywood, right? We give them so much credit, yet because we already created it, and they're just tuning into it. It already exists, and they're just bringing it into this form. Plato, back in ancient Greece, came up with that understanding. He created the concept of forms, where he said, the only reason why a person can even create a chair is because the form of it exists in another dimension, and they're tapping into it. This is an ancient Greek person who's remembering, whose soul, he's tapped into his soul and his intuition that's giving him that information. The result doesn't matter. It's the choices that matter, Connie. It's the belief within us that we can do it, that we have to come to. I can make changes. I can believe I'm lovable. I can know that I'm unlimited. Wow. Once we learn that, we don't need to stay. We can move on. And then we're in an environment where there's no suffering, there's no hurting, and let us evolve from there. We look at this earth as being too important of a place, and we're trying to develop technology to live here rather than to develop evolvement of our understanding of who we are as spiritual beings. And that's the most important reason for being here, not to achieve anything other than that. Woo!
Nice. Take a breath.
But I hope we wrote that down. Did you record this? Because
That was nice. It's true. I said it. I'm the one that said it. I get it. I get it.
That's okay. There you go. You can say it. Do you have those words in you? We all do. We just have to tap into it to understand it, right?
That's nice.
The Coast mobile app is now available for download on iPhones and Android devices. You can become an insider directly through this app. This is a great option for our international listeners, and new users will also receive a free 2-week trial.